Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is MP Destiny. Go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and the support that I have been receiving does not go unnoticed. So for all of you that have watched, liked my videos, shared my videos with your peers, gave me feedback, gave me topics of videos that you wanted me to record, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So as you can tell by the title of this video, this is going to be the 5 top questions that I get asked as a nurse. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. Question number 1 is, was the money I invested into nursing school worth it? So this is kind of a loaded question, and I'm gonna try to compact it into a simple answer, but I would say yes. If you do it the right way and don't try to maximize your student loans, then you could possibly go to school for free. You could get grants, you can get scholarships, and these 2 things allow you to not have to pay for school at all. If you're in the military will pay for it for you. If you are currently working in a hospital, a lot of hospitals have programs where they'll help you pay for school. So in that case, I would say the money that I invested into me going to school was worth it, even though I have a lot of student loans coming out of it. If you do it the right way, then you could go to school for a little of nothing. So especially with your associate's degree, once you get into graduate school, you have to take out student loans. But to obtain your associate's degree and your bachelor's degree, if you do your research, if you reach out to your employer, the HR department, and see what type of loan repayment benefits they have, or school assistance they have, that could be worth it for you. You apply for as many grants as you can, you apply for scholarships, you work some extra shifts, and I definitely think what you put into it will be worth it. And like I said, even though I did obtain a lot of student loans, I still wouldn't do anything differently. I just have to work a little bit harder to pay those loans back. So yes, the money I invested was definitely worth it. Question number 2 that I've been asked a lot lately is, what made me advance my degree? So if you didn't watch my first video, please go watch it and share it. But if you didn't watch my first video, I am a master's prepared nurse. I just recently graduated from graduate school back in December with my Master of Science in Nursing, specializing in psychiatric mental health. So the reason I advanced my degree is because, 1, I was burnt out at the bedside. Working as a bedside nurse is very, very hard. It's very taxing physically, mentally, and emotionally. So that's one reason I chose to advance my degree. The primary reason I wanted to be a nurse practitioner, specifically a mental health nurse practitioner, is because I work in a pediatric intensive care unit, and we would get a lot of kids that had attempted suicide. And that was it was very bizarre to me, because I knew about suicide, but I didn't think that it was prevalent in children, but it is. It was and it is. So that was very sad to me. And working in the pediatric ICU, usually if they try to commit suicide, they're very acute in their status. So that means that they need to be closely monitored if they're in the ICU. So either they're very sick, they overdosed on some medications, and they're sick to the point where they have to be intubated and sedated, and we just have to wait to see what the outcome is going to be once all of the medications wear off. Or they're in a critical time period where they have taken the medication, and we just have to watch them closely to make sure they don't have certain side effects that are associated with the medicines. So I would see children coming back to the ICU because they weren't getting the proper care outside of the hospital. So that's kind of what motivated me and made me choose to go the psych route. I thought I wanted to do family nurse practitioner or pediatric primary care or acute care, but I chose psych for that reason, because of the multiple admissions in kids. It's very, very sad, and I feel like I have a great bond with children, and I have the personality and the will and the drive to want to help, to make a difference in these children's and their families' lives, because their families are impacted as well. And if I'm being honest, I chose psych because the field is still kind of new. People kind of sleep on mental health. So a lot of people don't go into mental health because they don't know much about it. So by going into mental health, I feel like I can bring awareness to especially the Black community, Black women, Black families in general, so that their children can be taken care of by a black practitioner. As well as psych right now is the highest paying specialty as a nurse practitioner outside of being a CRNA. And I really wanted to work smarter and not harder. I didn't want to be on my feet a lot. I wanted to just be able to sit down and have a conversation with you and help care for you in that way, instead of having to be more burnt out by being on my feet all day, running around. So for me, it's about quality of life. And then psych, like I said, is the highest paying specialty at this point. The next question is, when I was in nursing school, did I ever question if I really wanted to be a nurse? The answer to that is yes and no. I say no because I went in knowing what I wanted to do. I knew that it was going to be hard because my mom is a nurse and she kind of prepared me mentally for the amount of work I was going to be doing. And I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed being challenged. I enjoyed learning about things that I never ever knew about. Like before nursing school, I was so green to everything that goes on in the medical field. So I loved learning. I love learning new things. And I love those little accomplishments, you know, getting good grades on my tests, doing group projects, doing care plans, going through clinical and getting good feedback from the nurses on the unit, from my clinical instructor, and from the patients and their families. So no, I didn't regret it, but there was a moment that I questioned it. And that moment, and it's very ironic, that moment was I was in clinical and I was in my pediatric rotation. So we were at a hospital on a pediatric unit. And like I said, I was doing clinical, and we had a clinical group of maybe like 10 to 12 students, maybe less than that, but either way. The instructor that I had at the time, she was a pediatric nurse. Or had a history of being a pediatric nurse, and my demeanor is very like cool, calm, laid back. I'm very calculated. Like I'm always paying attention to what's going on, even if I don't say anything. But this one particular instructor, she came up to me and had the nerve to say, "Are you sure that you want to be a nurse? You're so quiet. You never talk. You're very laid back. Are you sure this is what you want to do? If you want to be a nurse, then you have to be more outgoing and more friendly and blah, 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 blah." So, of course, that made me feel a way. Like I kind of felt discouraged, but it also fueled my fire, and I excelled in nursing school. And I say that it's ironic because I'm a pediatric ICU nurse. So she didn't know what she was talking about. Be who you are. Never let anyone try to deter you from what you have. Never let anyone try to deter you from your plan. It does not matter what your personality type is. If you're quiet, if you're loud, if you're outgoing, if you're shy, never let anyone tell you that you aren't built for what you want to do, or you aren't built for the hospital, or you aren't built to be a nurse, or you can't do ICU, you can't do the ER, you can't do the OR, because no one knows except for you. You know what you bring to the table. So never let anyone deter you from what you want to do. And I kind of thank her because, you know, she may have given me a little, I can't really remember the full extent of how I felt at the moment, but that moment stands out in my mind, so that I know that it affected me. But here I am, like I said, a pediatric ICU nurse. I have been for the last 6 years, and I've been doing a bomb job. So the fourth question is some words of encouragement for a nurse that is struggling with nursing school or contemplating quitting. And that kind of goes back to my third answer. Never let anyone deter you from what you know that you want to do and that you're built for. If God is calling you to do something, then do what God is calling you to do. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. You're going to fail. You're going to cry. You're going to not feel like you spend enough time with your friends, your family, like you don't have a life, but it's all going to work out in the end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and sometimes it's hard to see that light. But if you kind of take each moment as it is and get through those moments, those little moments, then it'll build you up. Okay, hey, this is my plan for this week. I have to do this assignment. This is how I'm going to categorize this time. But this time I'm going to spend with my family and my friends, and this time I'm going to have some me time. You have to prioritize school, of course, most importantly, but you have to prioritize the things around you too, because if you don't, you'll be miserable. So if you're struggling in nursing school, it's okay. We all struggled. It was not easy. I literally didn't have a job at the time. I was fortunate enough to, my mom allowed me to live with her, and I didn't have to have a full-time job. I didn't have a car. I used her car. I lived off of my refund checks from school. So, you know, that in itself was hard, having to be independent. I mean, having to be dependent on a refund check that only comes once a semester, and using someone else's card that needs their card just as much as you do. So, you know, some of the sacrifices that we have to make will be well worth it in the end. And I promise that any sacrifices or struggles that you're going through in nursing school, we've all gone through them. Nursing school is not easy by a stretch. Nursing school was harder than my master's degree program. And that's for real. Like, but you can do it. Like, it's not impossible. It seems impossible when you're in the moment, but you can do it. Trust me. And the last question is, one thing that I love about being a nurse. And the one thing I love about being a nurse, which is kind of funny because I'm very introverted and I don't like to talk much, but it's connecting with my patients and their families. And my favorite thing about doing that is sharing my story with them. If you watch my first video, then I shared some of my story that I did lose my father and I did lose a daughter, you know, within 2 years within the 2 years, 2-year time span. So, it's just amazing that you go through such a horrible thing and that you think you're never going to be on the other side of that pain that you feel. And then you turn it around and you can share that story and not feel ashamed and not cry and not, you know, not want to share the most vulnerable parts of your life. Because in the pediatric ICU, kids don't want to be in the hospital. Their families don't want them to be in the hospital. So if they're in the ICU, then they're sick. So for me to be able to tell my story to mostly the parents of these children, because you have to have a relationship with the parents as well, and let them know that I may not have gone through exactly what you're going through, but I did lose a child. I did lose a father. I've lost a lot. But you can still come out on the other side and be happy and live a beautiful life. And just to keep pushing, just to give them encouragement, just to talk to them about who they are outside of the hospital, because sometimes we get so wrapped up in being a nurse and caring for the patients that we don't take time to get to know these people as humans. You know, we just see them as the patient. We see them as the mom of such and such, the dad of such and such, and we put them in this box. But when you take the time to really talk to them and share who you are, they open up about themselves, you know, and by you sharing your story with them, it does offer them some healing. And I've been a witness to this. I've shared my story more so the story of losing my daughter, being in the hospital for 2 weeks, the doctors telling me that if I keep my daughter in my womb, that I have a high chance of not living. I could have a seizure and I could die. Them telling me every day, coming into the hospital room, telling me that your daughter's not going to make it. She's not going to make it. She's too small. This, and that. And being able to share that and be vulnerable with them definitely is my favorite part about it. Even though it pains me sometimes to talk about it, but I freely talk about it. I'm not ashamed. I literally freely just talk to them about my situation, and they feel better. They feel like, okay, someone can relate. So I would have to say that that's my favorite part about being a nurse. I mean, I love many other things, but my favorite definitely would have to be the connection that I make with the families, mostly the parents, and, you know, how that can translate into a beautiful relationship. So I hope these 5 questions have been helpful to you guys. As always, please like, share, comment, subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Bye.